Um, so yeah, I guess I can probably do that from my end if I'm a co-host,
Nope,
right?
I just did.
Oh,
So
okay, great.
we should be all set.
Okay.
But hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today after a long anticipated nearly a year of development process for a bunch of fantastic new websites that are home to the conservation standards, the conservation measures partnership, and also CCNet. And thanks for joining our live launch event. We hope you'll get some insights out of this about how to use our new websites and all the great new features that we have as well. Let me go to the next. So this is just sort of an overview of what we'll be talking about over the next 30 or so minutes. We wanted to leave some time for Q&A as well, because we know that's important for everyone to have some buy-in on this. And we'll also show you a link on how to continue to submit feedback to us about the different websites. So we're just going to do a brief introduction about why we did this in the first place. Why did we decide to create a bunch of new websites, and then move on to talking about the process about how we actually did this. And we have our fantastic website developers from Evermaven here to talk about how they helped us through this process. We'll do a bit of an overview of the different websites to show you what they look like on the inside. And you can follow along if you'd like as well. We can provide the direct links for you to click in the chat box. And we'll also talk about what's coming up for these websites. Everything online is always a work in progress. There's never a fully done version of anything really at this point. So we're always going to be making updates and hopefully helpful user experience type updates as well. So we're talking about that and have a lot of time at the end for some Q&A if you'd like to ask us any questions. We have all the website team here. Well, most of the website team at least here from the Cmp CCNet CS side, as well as our developers. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions for you. All right. So I guess I'll go back here, but sorry, I didn't realize I pressed the wrong button. Okay. Will, would you like to talk about our process for why we decided to do this in the first place?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. So hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this sort of little celebration, really, and launch event. So it's really appreciated. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Will Beale. I work for WWF, and I'm co-chair along with Erica Cochran of Conservation Measures Partnership. So I have obviously a keen interest in this work. These sites are, of course, key for us. They're key for our engagement with audiences who don't know our community, the CMP, the conservation standards, CCNet so well. They're key for our own work as well, and the way we collaborate and work together. So it was high time, really, I suppose, that we did some work to improve the sites. I think the last major update was in 2013. So it's a good while ago, and websites have moved on quite a lot since then in terms of their design and their appearance, the way people use websites, the way people search, the journeys they go on, probably even attention spans. People expect to find things really easily and quickly, and if they don't, they get a little bit fed up with it. So we have to find ways to draw people in, sometimes draw people in different ways, so we can't just be through one structure. They may go in through multiple routes. Things are expected to be visually compelling and great images and videos available, and things need to work on different devices as well. So expectations of the quality of sites has clearly moved on quite a lot, and we wanted to portray in a really visually compelling way the great work of our community, of CMP, of CCNet, and the conservation standards, and the work we do with the conservation standards, and the relationship between those. I think one of the questions that many of us has come across through our time has been, so what's the difference between CMP and CCNet, and why aren't they the same, and why is this stuff over here and that stuff's over there, and how does the conservation standards fit with all of this? So we wanted something that draws together, shows the relationships better, more consistently, and matches the quality of our new and excellent conservation standards version 4, which is a really good quality and standard. And we've done a lot of work on the visual presentation of that too. And so we decided some time ago to invest in this, in the new work on sites. We knew that wouldn't be an easy task. We knew it was going to require a good chunk of work, and it wasn't just going to be about the presentation, but also the content and the messaging that that was going therein. And I think we're just really delighted with what we've ended up with. Of course, as Sarah says, things are never completely perfect and finished. There's always ongoing development and things to refine, and we, as we get feedback in, we'll want to keep making things even better. But we are delighted with where we've got to. So just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who's contributed and been involved in any way in terms of guiding the process and contributing content. And we were just referring to the images and how so many of those have come from across the community, and that's absolutely brilliant. Again, really high quality. So thank you to everyone who's contributed in any way at all. This really helps us to communicate the conservation standards and the work of our community so much better than anything that we've had previously, and forms a key part of our communications and promotion work. So with that, Sarah, I think I'll hand back to you.
Great, thank you, Will. So now we're going to talk about the process that we went through to get these websites up and running. And we can start with talking, getting some information from our website team members about how it worked from our side. And then we can talk more with our developers from Evermaven who are also here. So John, if you'd like to chat about that.
Am I presenting? I thought I was just tuning in to find out what the difference between CMP and CCNet was.
Well, hopefully you can tell us.
Okay. All right, maybe next slide.
Sorry, I've got two screens open. There we go.
There. So here are the folks who were on the website team. So in addition to Neil and Alan from Evermaven, our web developers, Caroline led us very ably, and Sarah put in a ton of work, and Christina and Felix and Ashley and Burl Ives, or Daniel Sprod down at the bottom, and myself. We met regularly over the course of the last year to discuss the vision for the sites, to go over various drafts over time, to find images from our community, which many people graciously let us use, and to work on the text. And we continue to work together. I should add that CCNet came in a little bit later than the others, and Evermaven graciously let us expand the project to their everlasting regret because it complicated things considerably. But as Will said, we're very happy with the product. Next slide. So, and you can just go through it's an animated slide. Evermaven was hired to help us with the storytelling in a visual way, and to some degree in a written sense. They helped us in a series of meetings where we needed to fill in and answer their questions. They helped us get clarity on why we were having these websites, what the purpose of our organizations and initiatives are. And it was very instructive for us to see how they interpreted what we were saying and how we needed to tune up and tighten our language and our messaging. And it was extremely helpful to go through that process. As Will said, we really worked on the visual imagery, or Evermaven did, and tightening up that text. And we removed some unused features that seemed to be getting in the way. So what we were trying to come up with was something a lot more streamlined. Next slide. So we had already done an update of the resource library in 2019 to make it easier to search, find and filter resources. And so we didn't work with the Conservation Standards resource library. We're not going to go back and update news and events from the past to the new look and feel. It'll always be, as everyone's already said, a work in progress, because it's going to take time to keep it up to date. I'm sure we will find little glitches that are here and there, and we'll continue to work hard in the next few months to tighten up the text. Over.
Great, thanks so much, John. Does anyone else from the website team have any comments they'd like to make at this point before we hand it over to Evermaven?
I make
Caroline.
a comment? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just one thing that I, following up on yours and Will's comments that this will always be a work in progress. I do want people to know that we've had some material that's come in when we were in the middle of the redesign process, some translations that were updated that we weren't able to post, some other resources provided, and we're working on getting those up. I also want to mention that we are working on, we know you all have a lot of different training materials and products out there that reference our previous URL of cmp-openstandards.org. We updated that URL to use the current language that the conservationstandards.org. It should be easier, more meaningful to people what that is, but we do recognize that that means that a lot of links that you have do not currently work, and we're working with the Evermaven team to, at a minimum, redirect to the Conservation Standards website, and then where we can, we might be able to redirect even further. But that's still a discussion in progress. We didn't want some of these little and big things to really hold up the launch of these websites, because we feel like they were in such better shape than what we previously had, and we want to get this out there and get people using it, but just recognize that we know there are things that we have to fix, and I'm sure Sarah will talk about this later, but I think there will be a way for you to let us know also when you come across things that you think need to be fixed. Over.
Absolutely. Thank you, Caroline. So Neil or Alan, or both of you, would you like to share some thoughts about how this project was and how we're still working on things, and what your creative thoughts were around this as well?
Yeah, okay, Sarah. Thanks for that. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Neil Osborne here. I'm a senior member of the Evermaven team, and really just wanted to join today to recognize what's been a pretty lengthy and challenging but very rewarding project for Evermaven. And so just to give everyone a bit of context, we're a small boutique firm based out of Toronto, but we work around the world. And having glanced some of the email threads and the people joining this call, we've probably walked through a rainforest together somewhere, or on a beach somewhere around the world. We've had the good fortune of doing really special projects on almost all of the continents so far, except for Antarctica. And I guess we've been to the Falklands, so we're getting close to meeting all of, to getting to that final destination too. But I just wanted to share a minute's worth of remarks just to sort of really emphasize some of the things that have been said already. We took this project on realizing it was going to be a big challenge, but the synergy between these existing organizations and the various stakeholders was an opportunity we felt we just couldn't pass up. And then about 2 months into the project, after we started to uncover some stones, so to speak, we just found this gold mine, this treasure chest of such beautiful, compelling imagery from the front lines of what you all do. And so that really sealed the deal for us. We were very, very quick to appreciate that there was a special project here. And, the opening remarks have sort of suggested why some of this imagery wasn't present. But as soon as we started seeing these images come in, we said the world needs to know what this is all about. And so we're ever so proud of the collaboration. Admittedly, there's some things to take care of still, but ever so proud of what we've accomplished. And, you can learn a bit more about Evermaven at evermaven.agency if you haven't visited our site just quite yet. And also happy to report, possibly as early as the spring, you can go to evermaven.academy, where we're going to be launching our new revitalized education workshops. And it's on that note I'll conclude and pass it to my brother. you guys have such a special story to tell. We want to help you continue to scale. And, I hope there's going to be a chance to maybe meet in person after this pandemic is over through an education workshop where we can discuss how individual stakeholders can be involved in that scaling process as well. Because after all, Evermaven says the way we think and talk about the environment really matters. And so ever so proud to be involved in this. I'm going to send it to Alan just to, wrap this up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alan Osborne. I'm a partner with Evermaven as well. And this was, as Neil said, this was an exciting project for us to take on. And we are very grateful that we had the chance to work with the famous the people like Caroline and Christina and Sarah and Felix and John. Over the course of a few months, we learned, and especially myself, learned a lot of the nitty gritty about what do you guys do and how successful you guys are. And it's been a great pleasure learning for all that information. And as Neil said, your imagery has been quite fantastic. So being able to work with that at the forefront and, putting things together to be able to share the message to everyone, it was a big part of why I personally enjoyed it, going through each of the redesign and being able to share the stories across the board. So it's been a great pleasure, and I look forward to future collaboration with you guys. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Neil and Alan. Great to hear your voices here too. And thank you so much for all the work you've done with us thus far as we continue to move on and tackle some of the things still outstanding. But you'll all see in just a few minutes all the great work that Evermaven has helped us do with these websites. So without further ado, Caroline, I can pass it over to you so we can start going through what these websites look like.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, so let's see, let me get to the right spot here. So I guess I didn't properly say hello to everybody. Hello, I'm Caroline Stem. I am the coordinator for Conservation Measures Partnership. So that's kind of my role here. And I work with FOS, and I know many of you already, and or I know your names at least. So thanks very much for joining this launch, and we're excited to hear what you want to share about the websites and any questions that you have. So just starting off here, I want to point off a few things. One of the big decisions that we made as a team, and this gets to Will's point and John's, I think others have made the point that it hasn't always been clear to the outside world, and even some of us on the inside, the relationship between the Conservation Measures Partnership, CCNet, and the conservation standards. And so what we did was we made a strategic decision that regardless of what URL you type in, whether it's conservationmeasures.org, conservationstandards.org, or ccnetglobal.com, you are going to end up at a page that looks like this. And whichever one you enter as your URL, like here it's conservationmeasures.org, that's going to be your main image in the middle. And what we're trying to communicate here is that these are three entities that are closely tied to one another, that work together, that really help support one another. So that's why we made this decision to have kind of this unified landing page where you could navigate to any one of them. The other thing to point out here is that we worked with Evermaven to kind of come up with these really short little taglines of what these different entities do, so that people can start to get a sense really quickly off the bat. Okay, what is CCNet? What is CMP? And then from here, you can enter the site. So I'll actually enter the conservation standards site first. Oh, and there was one thing I wanted to point out here. This was at the higher level, but it's also anywhere within the pages, there's this function now to translate, and it seems to work pretty well. I speak Spanish, so I did a little bit of looking on this, and it seemed like it was doing a pretty good job. I thought I was logged out here. You will not see this up here when this is the back end editing, and I had logged out before I got on, but I guess it recognizes me still being in there. So
You can
apologies
use a
about that.
different browser if you want, Caroline, like Firefox or Chrome. It just,
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, let me try it in my personal tab here. Just so it doesn't get distracting that's up there. Okay, so so here we go. This is each of the websites has kind of a general some things in common, some things are different because we're all different entities, but each one has an about page, a news and events, a take action, and so what we're let me just go into diving. I guess well we are here on the about conservation standards. Each page has kind of a big I know there's a name for this, but it's not a banner image. It's kind of the big image, the landing page image, and then you scroll down. There's a little tagline that tells you a little bit, kind of entices you what this is about, and then we can scroll through. This is very much a scrolling environment. Going back to Will's point, people interact differently with websites these days. So there is some top bar navigation, but there's also a lot of scrolling through. So I do want to point out also that we're trying to again make the link to other partners. So you see there's a link over here to Marathi Share. There's the coaching and help, which talks about CCNet a bit and is trying to help make that connection again over to CCNet. The user forum again says CCNet has this listserv and it tells you how to get on it. So we're really trying to make that tie back. Each of these pages has then at the very bottom kind of these take action areas that are relevant to that particular website. So we're on the conservation standards. So one of the most relevant things is to download the conservation standards. Or maybe we want you to look at the resource library, support the conservation standards, go check out our collaborators. So CMP, CCNet, Marathi, again, trying to make that connection over, and then a contact us. Do want to point out, in addition to having these take action areas at the bottom of each page, we're trying to give people a variety of ways to interact with and find what they're looking for. So as I mentioned, the most important things we thought, if you're on the Conservation Standards website, is to be able to find the resource library and download the conservation standards. So those are up there as two buttons that are called out specifically. So let's see, I will just navigate you over to the resource library. As John mentioned, this is not an area that we updated. We just migrated everything over from our previous website. As he said, we did an update in 2019, and some of you may not be aware of that update. I know we had a lot of issues with finding materials on our previous resource library page, and so we really made a concerted effort to be able to have better filters, have, for example, if I just click on guidance, it's automatically filtering and giving me only things that are guidance, and I can then tell them that I want it in the assess step. And so it's kind of like if you're on Amazon or some website and filtering down, you know, what, I don't know, what shoes you want and what size shoe you want. And it helps to filter things down. So we have several different filters here, but the two that we felt were most relevant are always open. You can also, I'm going to unclick these. You can also search the library, like say you were looking for something on threats, and you can start to type it in and it will pull up some suggestions, but you can also just hit the search button here too, and it will show you the resources that are available that are related to threats. I want to show you also another way to do a search. So outside of the resource library, if I'm anywhere on, I'm just going to click over here again, anywhere on the website, I can hit here, the search button, I think. There we go. And again, I can type threat, and this should give me resources as well as posts, I believe. So, so again, there are a couple different ways to try and find what might be of interest to you. Another thing to point out on this particular page is we have case studies. I'd say this is an area where we're still, I think there's a little bit of work to do. We have a lot of case studies that we've received from submissions through our case study competition, and there are tiles here that mention those, but I think we still need to make sure to migrate over some of the cases specifically to make sure that they have tiles or a really clear place where they will turn up here. And eventually we will also probably be putting images behind these case studies so that when you look here, you'll be kind of quickly drawn to the image, and if you're a visual person, you'll be able to find what you're looking for quickly. There is on each of the websites, there's a take action area. So in addition to when you scroll down through any page and the footers having take action, there are areas that are relevant to the site. So again, downloading the conservation standards, the resource library, getting involved. So this is just another way again to find out how to take action. This was a big push also from Evermaven. Just, we want people to really know what we are asking them to do, how we want them to interact with our entities. So calling it out really clearly. Maybe the final thing I'll show on the conservation standards page is the download conservation standards. And so you could download them again by clicking directly here. That would give you I think the English version. We are setting things up so that you can see the English and the various other translation versions. We still have ones to add so that there's the language version or the visual depiction, but you can see further down here the bulleted list of what we have available. And for those of you who are joining, just a little, I guess a spoiler alert that the Mongolian translation is also available now, and Sarah will be sending out a notice about that. So this is pretty cool, a side note, just to see how we're not even a year out from having the conservation standards published, and we've got it in all these different languages. So that's pretty exciting. That's the conservation standards. I just want to point out, if I click on this over here at the top left, it's going to bring me right back to that landing page with the 3 different entities. I am not going to spend too much time on CMP or CCNet, just maybe pointing out a couple things on each of them. The way you interact with them is similar to what you saw with the conservation the conservation standards. Maybe just, and again, up here, the resource library, download CS, even though we're on the CMP website, we felt these were important enough that we needed to put them at the top and link over to the conservation standards website. Scrolling through here, I want to point out we did ask you all for some feedback as when we released the beta version, and we have tried to address a lot of that feedback. Some we couldn't address either because we have made some design choices that were in conflict with the suggestion, or because we haven't had time yet to get everything. But I do want to point out, some people said, we can't find the strategic plan. So here we go. Here's the the CMP Strategic Plan. And let's see, there's one other thing I want to point out on the CMP page, because I think there are many people who don't know about this. There's an initiatives page, and we have a workspace for our initiatives that is kind of an internal space, but we've actually made it fairly public. You can click on here, and if you go over there, you're going to find this is just a Google site that CMP members use and our initiatives use. And you can click through here and you can learn about all the different cool things that are happening within the CMP initiatives. And these initiatives, I call them CMP initiatives, but actually there's broad conservation standards community involvement. So many of you on this call are probably part of some of these initiatives. So that's all I'm going to say about the CMP website. And I'm going to shut up in a minute so we can have some Q&A. Again, I'm just going to click back here on that logo. It takes me back here. Now the CMP one is in the middle because I'm now at conservationmeasures.org. And I can click over here and enter the site for CCNet. And a lot of similarity to what we've seen on other sites. Maybe just point out that here there's a coaches resource library. It's not the same resource library as what's on the Conservation Standards website, and we've been in discussions about whether or how to merge those. And so I think that's a bit of an ongoing discussion, but we didn't feel we were really ready to make that decision yet. But if you go through all of these, we've got all the different franchises or not franchises, actually, I guess we're using networks now as the term, because franchise was seen as a little geeky or not really quite so relevant to the work that the different groups are doing. There's information on how to become a coach and finding a coach. So basically all the stuff that you might recognize, a lot of this from the previous CCNet website. So there hasn't been a lot of change in terms of the content, but it's an overhaul in terms of the look and feel. And there's been some work too on updating the text and putting in images, trying to really convey visually what it is we all do together. And just like the other pages, there's a take action for CCNet, and this is tailored to CCNet. You can financially support CCNet, donate time. You browse the resource library, download the conservation standards, and then again visit the collaborator sites. I think I'm going to pause there and just maybe see if John or Christina want to add anything that I should mention about the CCNet website.
I don't think so, Caroline. I think you did a great job. Thanks.
Okay. How about the rest of our team? Do you guys feel like I missed anything important to point out? Okay. I'm not hearing anything, so I think I will, with that, turn it back to you, Sarah. And Sarah, I think you are on mute.
There we go. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Trying to get 3 different screens to cooperate was not super fun. Okay. So before we get to our Q&A, just wanted to remind all of you that, as we've said multiple times, we are still updating things. We are still making changes that will hopefully make this a better experience for you, and continuing to make little tweaks. As Caroline mentioned, there are a few pages that have that show our different blog posts and other types of posts that are missing photos, things like that. We're working on updating to make sure that they look the way that they should. And we're also trying to do a lot more checking between our old site and our new site to make sure all the resources that you've been looking for are linked, or at least present in the same library that they should be in. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So continue to check back on these sites as you're exploring them. And I apologize for all the dog barking. Of course, someone just rang the doorbell. You can either ask questions about it in the Q&A that's going to happen in just a minute, or I'm also putting in the chat a link to a Google feedback form that you can just put in your browser. It's the same link that I sent out in previous emails to ask for feedback as you're going through the websites. What do you think we could improve? What was difficult to find? What could use some more sorry, excuse me. What could use some more attention, but also what did you like? What are things that you're liking now on these websites versus the other ones? So we'd love to see your feedback, both constructive and positive at the same time. So in the chat, there's the feedback form. So feel free to either submit feedback about the websites to that form directly, or I'll also put my my email in here. You can also send them directly to me as well. The feedback form goes to me as well. So there's no, if you decide to do the form, I'll also see all of those too. So no worries on that. Anything from Evermaven or from our website team before we go to our Q&A section?
Sarah, there's lots to talk about, but I'm happy to hear and contribute in the Q&A if anyone has specific questions for Alan and I.
Okay, sure. So let's move to the Q&A and see if anything comes up. And Neil, if you'd like to contribute some things, if what you're thinking about doesn't come up, feel free to do so. Go ahead.
And Sarah, maybe just to note, there were 2 comments already in the chat box.
Oh, yes.
So Paulina Arroyo mentioned that the underlying message on the landing page is so important. There are different information sites, but have linked conceptual underpinnings. Paulina, did you want to say anything more on that? If you are still on.
Yeah. Well, one, to congratulate all this work. This is amazing. And what I wanted to reinforce was the importance of making sure that this is linked. All the efforts are linked. So I think in the past, many people thought that everything was a little bit siloed or isolated. And I really like the way that it's not just visually linked, but the conceptual underpinnings are intimately connected.
Yeah, Paulina, this is Neil from Evermaven. I like to use, if you humor me, the analogy of if you have a roommate or your partner who you live with doesn't put the cap on the toothpaste, the solution to this is you buy the toothpaste that have the attached cap and then they can't lose the cap. And so admittedly, it took me a number of months to really wrap my head around how comprehensive this network really is. So many stakeholders spread across the globe with a footprint, really making a mark. And I've been in this business for a while, and so I usually pick up on things pretty quickly, but it took me a while to understand how comprehensive this was. And in that exercise, you quickly tease out how much synergy there is. And so it was a really easy decision to say, hey, this needs to be emphasized. So I'm glad you've pointed this out. Thanks for that comment.
And Sarah, if I could, there are at least two other chats to.
Absolutely. Yep. So I can go ahead with that if you want, Caroline.
Okay.
From Anita, she says, congratulations for the great achievement and amazing to have it all integrated. She had to go to another meeting, but great to see so many faces. And I'm sure this is a great coming together of CCNet, CMP, and other interested parties all at once, which is awesome. So great to see everyone from all those different places too. And then a question from Becky Raboy. One question I always had was, how does FOS fit in with the three conceptual entities, CMP, CS, and CCNet? And is it explained someplace in the web pages?
I can take that one, being from FOS. It's a great question, Becky, and it is so FOS is the facilitator for, or the appointed neutral facilitator for the Conservation Measures Partnership. We are also the legal and fiscal sponsor for CMP, and it's under it that is mentioned in CMP and under I think it's under how we operate. And yes, it is. And so, and then there's also a link to our charter, which goes into more detail. That's kind of the level that we felt was appropriate, because FOS is, while we are the fiscal and legal sponsor, we are also just one of many members of CMP, and didn't really feel it was appropriate to, I guess, give ourselves any more attention than that. But certainly open to ideas if anyone thinks that that could be better explained.
All right, Becky says, thank you. Great explanation. So if anyone has any other questions, you need to put them in the chat and I'll read them, or you can unmute yourself and say them too.
So this is Marcia. I'll also just add to what Caroline was saying, to say that on the CCNet side, FOS is mentioned as one of the founding partner organizations behind CCNet. So it's down there in the description of the organization of CCNet, which is, I think, also the appropriate level for mentioning us.
Great, thanks, Marcia. And now we have a question from Patrick. Can you explain how the translate function works?
Should I show my screen? I actually can't explain the back end, but
Sure.
I can show how you would interact with it.
Yeah, go ahead, Caroline.
And
you should be able to
Neil or Alan might have more to say on that. So let's see if I can get to the right page. So if you are down here, you can choose a flag of your choice to translate it. And so let's just over here, French. And then it does, I think it uses, does it use Google Translate, Alan, or?
Oh, hi, Caroline, Alan here. I'll just jump
Okay.
in. Yeah, so that feature was added because of the diversity of viewers that you guys will have coming to these 3 sites. And that feature is based off of the Google Translator itself. Of course, trying to get someone to translate the whole websites into multiple languages is nearly impossible. So Google offers this great feature that it will translate pretty much the whole site for you with a few clicks of the buttons. It's easily edited as well, that multiple languages can be added and removed at the discretion of the developers in that.
Mm-hmm.
And in Spanish, I noticed that it doesn't try to translate coaching. It says a través del coaching. That's what CCNet does. It, strengthen strategies and conservation practices a través del coaching. Like, good, because there isn't actually an exact word in Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the translators are getting smarter and smarter. So it's not going to be a perfect translation, but it's probably enough to understand what's going on.
And to follow up on that, Charles has a question about if it will also translate PDFs viewed in the browser.
I'll leave that to Alan. I don't think so, but Alan,
unfortunately, that is not one of the features that the Google Translator works. If any sort of PDF needs to be translated, that has to be done on the back end and then uploaded separately.
Okay. So now a question from Arlene. Can you please remind everyone again what the process is for submitting relevant resources to share in the resource library and CS projects to place on the map that we just shared? I was going to bring up the map thing as well, so I forgot about that until you just shared it, Caroline. So
yes, so
we've been discussing this. at
Yep.
length.
You want to take the map thing first? Or
Sure.
actually, am I sharing my?
I'm not.
sharing my.
Here, hold
Okay.
on, hold on. I can give it. There you go. Now you should be able to share it.
Okay. So actually, the map, I'm going to turn to Felix. This is my understanding is this is a user curated map, and you can, I believe, just click on it and you could go in here. Well, let's see. Felix, I think maybe I have to click here.
Yeah, so maybe to quickly explain, we created that map actually a few years ago when we needed a map for the new Mirati site. So this one was originally hosted on the Mirati site, and I sent an email out to the network, to CCNet, to ask everybody who wants to add any projects that they know or that they have been working with or are working on, that either use Mirati and or the standards, to put a little flag on the map and put some information down. It's as you mentioned, Caroline, a purely user-curated map, meaning you can go in and delete everything, what you shouldn't do, of course. We do take regular backups, but yeah, it's basically this is the work of our network, of the community. I was told actually not too long ago, like towards the end of last year, that it is not anymore editable, so you cannot add little flags to the map anymore. We need to have a look into this if this is still the case. Actually, I see Caroline adding a little
I
flag
think
right
you
now.
can. Yeah.
So it's back up and running. I don't know. Yeah, but this is the brief history to how this map was came to be. It's probably worth considering sending out another reminder to the network and to folks to maybe add new projects or update the ones that they have at some point put on the map. But there is no standard procedure to that. Yeah, that's sort of like how this map came to be.
This would be a really cool project for somebody to take on. I think there's a lot of great potential. We did something like this with the university courses several years ago for a CCNet rally, and that was really fun to see and have people come in and update it. But as Felix said, this is not complete. Love to get others to add. I think you just basically, to answer the question specifically, I'm just going to pretend I have a, I think I just go here. Do I go there? Okay, so, 0.303, and I just call it my project in Algeria, and then I can put some notes about it.
Exactly, and you can look at other projects of how they have been doing it. We provide a little bit of a recommendation of what kind of information to put in here. You can even add an image, which makes when you hover over a little flag icon, makes it look really nice because the little image pops up with it, if there is an image at all. Yeah. But yeah, there's you can keep this really short.
Here's an example.
Yeah, so this one really looks quite neat. If you take the time, but if you only have a few seconds, just add your points and maybe a point of contact, and that's a good start at least.
And maybe to answer the question also about how do you submit resources, maybe can I turn that to you, Marcia? Wait, before I do.
I'm wondering if we should just add something to the top of that page. When you click on resource library, someplace around where I'll let somebody else who understands web design better than I do figure out where to put it. But just a sentence about if you have a resource to submit, please send it to, and it could be to Sarah to post it, and then Sarah can let me know so that the guidance committee reviews it. Oh, there we go.
This is again, it's an example of, it's an example of our take action area. So in the resource library, you might browse it, but you can also submit a resource. And if you click on this, I believe, yeah, it's going to give you a, if you can see in my bottom left, it says mail to cmpinfo@conservationmeasures.org. So it would go there and then get redirected to the relevant people.
Marcia, you might
Okay.
just mention what the guidance committee does, just to remind people.
Oh yeah, for those of you who don't know, there is a group of about 8 of us who we review guidance in order to rate it and provide a little description of it. And the whole idea there is just that there's an increasing amount of guidance out there, and we want people to be able to find the most useful resources for them. And so, you know, sometimes we'll look at something that may be old, but it has like an excellent description of viability assessment. So we can, you know, really highlight that in the description. So that's what we do. We get together once a month to review the new stuff.
And I want to point out, somebody put in the chat box is a mistake. I noticed that in another area of the website, but I didn't catch it here. I actually corrected it in the other one, but I didn't notice. I'm not sure why, but this should not refer to Camel. Camel is
Okay.
a great resource, but it's not what we're talking about here. So I will have to, this is kind of an example of the sorts of things that we know we have to clean up, and it helps to have your eyes on it and you telling us that doesn't make sense. So thanks for pointing that out. And my chat is frozen, so I'm gonna, I don't even know if I can stop sharing my screen. I think my Zoom is kind of frozen. Oh, here we go. I'll turn it back over to you, Sarah.
You're still sharing it, but it's fine. We can have it on here.
Yeah, I can't. Sorry, I can't stop. It's
no worries.
I didn't even know if I had been booted out of the Zoom. So
no,
okay.
you're still here. We can still hear you. So we have about 7 minutes left. If anyone has any further questions, again, you can just say them out loud to me, or you can type them in the chat. Up to you.
John had made a suggestion to put the URL of the map in the chat. I can't do that though because
Yeah,
of. So if anybody else can do that, that'd be great.
I will do that right now. So Neil, do you want to say anything that you'd been wanting to say that hasn't come up?
It's funny you ask. I was sharing some notes in an email I want to send to Caroline after. Caroline, I think you navigated and articulated really well, and it sort of goes without saying that was maybe just a 5-10 minute run through, but this has been a 6-month long process, even longer. So you know, there's a lot more to it than obviously what we're sharing today. But you know, just compliments to what you're all doing, and again, Alan and I are quite proud of this particular project. We've been doing these sorts of things for a while now, and this is one we really want to highlight and share with people because of what's come to be. So. I can answer any specific questions, but to be frank, I think this has been a really great exercise for us to see. And you know, I should also mention Evermaven at any given time can be a team of, you know, there's less than a dozen of us, but there's a lot of other people that get involved in this. We've got, you know, particular people who are good at copy editing and coders and developers and people who get really excited about maps and things like that. So just, yeah, just wanted you all to know that besides Alan and I, there's some really nice people, good people that you know, go to work with us. So thanks again.
Great, thanks, Neil. Well, if anyone, if there's no more questions, I'll give you an opportunity to ask them now. But I'm trying to look for the map URL now. But if there's no more questions,
Sarah, is there anything you want to just say in terms of how we might want to share the site, or how you're going to what you would encourage us to promote it from now?
Absolutely. So I sent an email out to the CMP member list I have, as well as the CCNet list, that included a social media toolkit for partners to use, which is meant for you to use. Literally copy paste any of the example social media messages that I drafted there. I have longer ones for LinkedIn or Facebook, and then shorter ones for Twitter that just talk about each of the websites independently. So if you are a CCNet coach and you want to promote the CCNet website, there are links to that. And then vice versa for CMP, or if you just want to talk about conservation standards as well. So I'll put that link into the chat right now. I can find that easier than the map at the moment. My internet, of course, is not cooperating with me. But yeah, there should be, you know, literally copy paste social media messages if you'd like to. You can also follow us on Twitter at Conservation Measures. We're talking about conservation standards, Conservation Measures Partnership, and also CCNet there, and retweet any of our messages that we put out. We're also Conservation Measures Partnership on LinkedIn. And hopefully you'll be able to share this toolkit with anyone else. Sorry, my internet is just, of course, taking forever. I'll put that link in there for you. But yeah, so share it as much as you want. We'd love to have as much feedback as possible too, to make sure it's, you know, the websites are working for you and not just us. So.
Thank you, Sarah. I have a message from Caroline because apparently her Zoom. Oh, there you are, Caroline. Well, then you can speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had to, thank you, Felix. I just had to, it froze up on me and I had to rejoin. But I wanted to just thank everybody who attended this, but thank also Evermaven and our fantastic website team. It's really been a lot of fun working with everybody and seeing the final product. And thank you all for your input you provided so far, and then any input you're going to provide in the future.
And we have one more question from Marcia. Yes, the CMP is producing videos about the conservation standards. They will go up on the site very soon, and also be promoted. Yeah, so now that we're getting the site all up to date, those beautiful videos will be up for everyone to see, and we'll also be promoting them via social media. So they'll be out very shortly. Yes, very excited.
Fabulous.
We did a lot of great interviews with different CMP members, and excited to hear all of them. Yeah, they'll be released over the course of the year, but the first one should be out very shortly. And here finally is the link to the social media toolkit if you'd like to use it.
And maybe just one thing to add to what Sarah said, those videos profile CMP members, CCNet members, conservation standards community, teams that have used the conservation standards, even if they're not kind of formally part of the partnership, but there's 3 different types of videos. One is kind of an anthem, what our developer calls an anthem video, which is just kind of trying to inspire people to learn more about the conservation standards. We have, I think, 11 testimonials from individuals and teams that have used the conservation standards in different contexts. And one video that's still under production, but just a little bit more of an in-depth about the conservation standards. So we will be releasing those. We're kind of dragging them out a little bit over time because we really want to try to keep the conservation standards on people's radar screens and let them know that we're doing, kind of regularly let them know we're doing cool work. So that's the rationale behind releasing them little by little over the year. And I should mention that those videos were funded through the Moore Foundation, so we are very grateful for that support. We were able to do a lot of really cool promotional work under that.
Well, this is all really exciting. Beautiful sites and some upcoming exciting videos. Woohoo!
Brilliant.
We're all very excited. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. This was recorded, so I'll send out a link if you'd like to share it with anyone, in a follow-up email. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank
or morning
you.
if you're in
Thanks,
Australia.
Sarah. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks,
Sarah.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Bye.